Chapter 3. The first. Robert Adams came by in his father's sleigh to take me to the Adams place. I shall help them for the week with maple sugaring. Second. Worked at the Adams place. Third. Do or ditto. 4. Do. Fifth. Do. Sixth. Do. Seventh. Palm Sunday. Went to meeting with the Adams and returned home with mother and father. I earned a tub of sweetening for my week's work. It is good to be home again. Noah's tub of sweetening was a wooden sugar bucket of thick maple syrup, which was his pay for the help he had given to the Adams family. No pay could be more appreciated, for sweets and sweetening were rare things in the pantry closet of 1805. At that time there was no such thing in all America as candy as we know it now, for the word was either a verb meaning to sweeten, or it referred to broken pieces of sugar. Maple sap bucket, spile or spout of stomach hollowed out with a hot wire, and the soft sugar tub, which was part of Noah's pay, plug for drawing off sugar molasses. "We have candy for dessert today," Rachel Blake would say, and she would place on the dinner table a bowl of hard loaf sugar with either a sugar hammer or a pair of sugar scissors to cut it with. "The wooden tub was part of my salary," Noah said, "so I'll not have to return it. I'd like to give that to you, Mother." "And who," asked Rachel Blake, "did you meet at the sugaring?" "There were a great many people," replied Noah, "some I've never seen before. Mrs. Adams tended the stirring and boiling along with a new girl named Sarah Trowbridge. The boys and men collected buckets and sledded the sap back to the sugar house." Rachel noted a peculiar interest in Noah's voice. "A new girl, did you say?" "Yes," Noah answered with some attempt to bring attention back to the sugar bucket. "Just a new girl from the South to help Mrs. Adams with the sugaring and farm chores." 8th. The snow has gone and seasonable weather for spring business has arrived. I finished the winter's lot of nail making and put the forge to rights. In the little forge barn halfway down to the bridge, see the 1790 diagram below, Isaac had earned most of the money needed around the homestead. Not that an early American had great need for cash, as most things were traded, but a good farmer always had a cash crop or some paying trade other than farming. Isaac was a nail maker. He had taught Noah the art of making hand-wrought nails by letting him pump the bellows of the forge as a little fellow. Now and then he actually hammered or broke the iron nail rods. "Some day," said Isaac, "we will have a water mill right about here, and there will be a big mill wheel to take your place pumping the bellows. By then you'll be an expert yourself." As a matter of fact, Noah was already an expert. By the time he reached his 15th birthday, he could make upward of 900 nails a day, and he seldom went over the professional 4 strokes of the hammer to flatten out the heads. "As soon as we have the new bridge done so we can haul it over," Isaac told Noah, "we shall get the new water wheel and begin building the mill." Mr. Beach, the carpenter and joiner, had been working on the Blake mill wheel for almost a year and had promised to have it done by this spring. Actually, the new bridge and a new mill would be twin projects, because as soon as the mill was ready, people would want to come by wagon to buy ironware and nails, and there would have to be a bridge strong enough for the heaviest wagons. Many an American town grew up in just this way, around a lone mill that had its own bridge. That is why you will find so many towns named after some mill, such as the many Miltons, Milltown, Millvilles, Millbrooks, and so on. The reader might be interested in knowing just how wrought iron nails were made and what Noah had to learn about the trade, so this 2-page spread of drawings will give you a nutshell lesson in early American nail making. In the little forge barn halfway to the bridge, the chimney was built up from clay and sticks. This was known as cat and clay. Isaac, tub, bellows, Noah, nail rods being heated. The forge barn was important to all farms, for every tool was either made or repaired there. Isaac Blake and his son Noah made nails, and here's how wrought nails were made. 1. The nail rod was heated and hammered to a point. 2. Rod was then dented at nail length, so it will break off easily. 3. It is then put into a nail header and snapped off. Hammer. 4. A head is hammered onto the nail. It is shrunk by dipping in cold water and dropped out of the header. 9th. Flooding all but washed our bridge away. Father says the new bridge beams are seasoned and ready. When the waters subside, he shall begin to erect it. We are shaping up the abutments. 10th. Worked on the bridge abutments. Daniel helped with the bigger stones. 11th. Due. 12th. Good Friday. It rained all day. Brook went up. 13th. Bluebirds arrived. We finished the abutments without help of Mr. Adams and his son Robert, who came by to assist. River lower. 14th. Easter Sunday. A fine service. Saw Sarah Trowbridge, the new girl at the Adams. She is very pretty. The little bridge across Redman Brook was nothing more than 2 very long tree trunks with planks set atop to walk across. It had lasted 10 years, but in the meantime Isaac had prepared a set of truss beams ready for erection as a new bridge as soon as Noah was old enough and strong enough to help. The bridge will be a big memory in the boy's life, Isaac had said, and he will want to have taken part in putting it up. Like most masonry of early American times, the bridge abutments were built in drywall fashion, which merely meant that no cement was used. The old-timers had a knack of fitting stones together so cleverly that no binding at all was necessary. This art of dry masonry used to be so well known that you could just look at a wall or a foundation and recognize it as the work of a particular builder. All the stones for the Blake Bridge were fitted together by Isaac, but the actual moving of the heaviest stones was accomplished with a lever pole fulcrum, see the drawing, which was operated by Daniel the ox. You might wonder how the pioneers moved some of the great stones that you see in old walls and foundations. The secret was simply in their ability to slide things. A 2-ton slab of rock that could not be lifted or carted by wagon could be slid to location with ease just by waiting for winter and sliding the stone over ice. Almost no heavy farm loads were hauled on wheels. That was put off till winter when the loads could be slid across the countryside on sled runners. For each wagon the old-time farmer had, he had about 4 sleds. Even smaller stones were thrown on a flat wooden slab known as a stone boat and slid across the grass during summer, with much less effort than it would take to lift them onto a wagon and cart them on wheels. Mr. Adams and his son came by to help with the final stonework, but found that they were more in the way than anything else. "The way Noah handles that lever for you," said Adams, "I guess you'll not be needing us. But when it's time to raise the bridge timbers, we'll be on hand." Isaac Blake and his son built the abutments where the new bridge will go. Daniel the ox, a stone being moved, sliding a stone with a fulcrum and lever, planks to slide stones on. Things were sledded during summer by stone boat. 15th. Father used Daniel this morning to set the bridge beams in place for homing the joints. I tried my hand at spring plowing in the afternoon with Daniel. 16th. More plowing. Father still setting up the trusses. He says the points have swollen with the rain and need new chiseling. 17th. Dew. Weather fine. 18th. Dew. 19th. Finished plowing. Father has the bridge trusses ready for raising. Tomorrow I shall go to the Adams and ask them to come upon Saturday the next. 20th. Spent the day at the Adams. They shall certainly assist with the bridge next Saturday. Sarah Trowbridge did the cooking, and she is most excellent. 21st. First Sunday past Easter. The meeting house was very cold. I visited with Sarah after the service. Setting the timbers in place and driving the joints home were well-known procedures in the days when men built their own barns. The complete skeleton of any building was laid out upon the ground and fastened together loosely with wooden nails called tree nails or trunnels, before raising the sections up and fastening them together. The drawing shows how Isaac Blake had put together 2 complete king post trusses ready to be erected into the final bridge. The beams were pounded into place on the ground with a very heavy hammer called a commander or beetle, and then the wooden pins were inserted and hammered into place. Nowadays we assume that people once used wooden pins because it was too hard to make nails or spikes, but metal nails would have either rusted away or split the wood, so wood against wood made a much better fastening. It breathed with weather changes and finally welded itself together into the best possible union. Even today you may find oak trunnels fastening together 2 barn beams that are solid and firm after 2 centuries, while a spike would have rusted away long ago and rotted the wood next to it. It seemed that Noah had taken a great liking to Sarah Trowbridge. Although he had had little time for visiting, the 2-hour-long church service afforded him plenty of time for admiring her and seeing her in her best dress. You might wonder why his diary mentions that the meeting house was very cold, until we remember that even in the early 1800s, it was still considered improper to put a stove in a place of worship. People came to church in great fur coats and lap robes. The preacher himself often stood on a tin of hot coals and wore heavy fur mittens while he conducted services. The long drive to church during winter was made comfortable by a small charcoal stove under the lap robes, and when you entered church you carried your stove with you. A king post bridge. to go here, the king post, stringer beam, compression braces. Old bridge. The pieces were cut and fitted on the ground before they were erected. The beams were pounded into place with a commander, 50 pounds. 22nd. Day spent in forge barn fashioning trunnels for bridge, did 40. 23rd. Rain and wind, worked in the garden sowing peas and beans. Tin foot stove under the blanket, charcoal fired heater, foot warmer, for a sleigh for coals, about 1805, and one to hold hot water. Embers were carried from room to room or house to house to start fireplace fires in a metal fire pan. The fire pan also served as charcoal foot warmers in churches. 24th. Rain stopped and brook us down. Prepared the beams, and we put them in place for Saturday's work. 25th. Mr. Toms came by with a new rope from his walk. I have seldom seen so long and white a rope. 26th. Rain again. Too wet to work in the garden, but we thinned brush, and we pruned in the woodlot with hooks. 27th. The Adams arrived with 6 townspeople at sunrise. We set the stringers and put the king posts in place. We have made a fine bridge. Father put a brush atop the posts, and we all sang and drank. Sarah brought a cake. One man fell into the brook, but he was not hurt. We knocked down the old bridge, which made me feel a little sad. 28th. Without yet a floor in the new bridge, we could not yet proceed over it to Sunday meeting, so held service at home. Mr. Tom's walk was the place where he made his rope. Rope walks were sometimes a quarter of a mile long. They were usually at the edge of town where traffic would not interfere with the business of rope winding. In the early days, for example, New York's Main Street, Broadway, ended as a rope walk which extended uptown for about 2,000 feet and into a meadow. The rope spinner had a large bundle of fiber gathered loosely around his waist. He pulled out strands from this and wove them into cords, walking backward along the rope walk as he worked. Another man wound the twisted cords into rope. It was once the custom for rope makers to rent rope for special purposes, so we might presume that Mr. Toms rented Isaac the rope for raising his bridge. A backwoods farmer seldom had any use for such great lengths of rope. Moreover, the expense made good rope a rare thing around the farmyard. On the 26th day of April, Noah's diary said that they pruned trees with hooks, and that statement harks back to an ancient phrase which most of us still use to get anything, by hook or by crook. As dead tree limbs harbor insects and disease, the old-timers were careful to remove as much dead wood from a stand of trees as they could, and people used to walk through the forest with a hook stick much like a shepherd's staff. The hook was used to pull dead branches from trees. Very early house leases forbade the tenant to cut trees for firewood, although he was always allowed as much wood as he could take by hook or crook. How long this legal phrase has lived, although few of us realize whence it came. Another ancient custom is seen in Isaac's putting a brush on top of the new structure. Even nowadays, you will see workmen put a small tree or bush on the top of a new roof when it has been completed. That ceremony always calls for a round of drinks for the builders, and although we don't seem to know why we do it, we say it is just to give the house luck. That tree tacked atop a new building goes all the way back to Druid lore when men worshipped trees. Hoisting the bridge beams. Oiled roller log. The beams were dropped on end off the abutment and pulled by rope over an oiled log to the opposite abutment. The old bridge. Raising the king posts. Men A and B push upward, while men C and D winch a stay rope to the king post. Temporary brace pushes bridge upward while it's being built. Brace beams are added. The temporary brace is knocked down, and except for the floor, the bridge is up. Isaac puts a brush atop the new structure. Compression piece. Wood nails on trunnels. The king post truss. For a longer bridge, 2 king posts create a queen post truss. Whether the raising was of a home or a church or a bridge, people used to come from all around to help. The women brought food and drink while the men just brought their strong backs. Children used to make up rhymes to recite or songs to sing at the raisings, and a house often got its name through one of these impromptu house-raising songs. Often the house-raising song was sewed into a sampler by some enterprising young girl and presented to the owner at the housewarming when the owners moved in. For example, there is on record a house in Rochester, New Hampshire, which was so celebrated in verse. Flower of the plain is the name of this frame. We've had exceeding good luck in raising the same. Sarah brought with her a rhyme for the occasion, and though she had not sewed it into a sampler, she had made several copies of it, and everyone sang, "On Red Man Brook we've raised a frame, and Noah Blake Bridge will be its name." If you look at the drawing of the bridge raising, you can see how the timbers were put in place and raised into a permanent truss, first with the help of Daniel the ox, and then with the help of the Adams family and other neighbors. You may also see how the slanted beams tend to push against each other as compression pieces and lift the king post. The king post truss was the simplest of bridge trusses, followed by the queen post truss, which was simply two king posts put together for a longer span. Just about the time that Noah and his father built their bridge, many Americans were designing different kinds of trusses, getting their designs patented, and selling their plans at $1 a foot to bridge builders. Some of America's first fortunes were earned by these enterprising designers. 29th, a sloppy day. Started splitting boards for bridge floor. 30th, still working on the bridge floor. Father splits while I saw. The split axe for splitting logs, also called holes axed. Wedge-like head for hitting.